On the Mayfly bench, a Deluxe Reverb custom build. So a pro player, a friend of mine, came to me relatively recently and said he was dissatisfied with his current rig. It was big, it was heavy, it was too loud, and for all of these reasons I said, hey, why don't we build you a custom amp that's exactly what you need and nothing more and nothing less. And he said, great, what do you have in mind? And I said, well, we could start with a Deluxe Reverb kind of platform, then go from there. And he was thrilled about that. He was a fan of the Fender sound. In fact, he was using a blackface clone of a type. And I said, okay, well, let's go for it. So we mapped out some particulars about what he was exactly looking for. He wanted a good Fender sound. Reverb was important. Tremolo was not important. Master volume was important. And if he could have more control over his reverb, that would be great. Light package, not too loud, not too heavy, not too big, not too bulky. Deluxe Reverb with an efficient speaker is bound to fit that package. So I'm starting with today with a Ted Weber kit. Ted Weber, as you guys know, make loudspeakers, but they also make kits of a variety of amplifiers. And I have one right here before me. So this is going to be our starting point for this build. Lots of modifications are going to happen along the way, which I'll explain. But for this particular episode, I thought I'd show you the kit and what I thought of it as a starting point. So here we go. There are two really nice things about the Ted Weber kit. First is the cabinet. This cabinet is beautiful. The Tolex is perfect. And the Tolex is sure to bring a smile to my player's customer's face. It is beautifully applied black boot leather, and it's nice. The cabinet is, I don't know, there's only one small flaw that I can see in it, and that is there's a little bit of a gap right here between the corner thing and the side of the cabinet. And it's that way in all the corners for some reason. That could be easily rectified. Other than that, the cabinet, the baffle board, Tolex, grill cloth is excellent. There's another really excellent thing about the Ted Weber kit, and that it comes with a stainless steel chassis. This chassis is really strong. This is the doghouse for the chassis. As you can see, it comes with this protective covering, and this here is the chassis itself. It's heavy, so I'm going to have difficulty picking it up and holding it in front of you while we have a look at it. So all the holes come pre-drilled with a caveat. There's a lot of holes in this chassis, and he did that, the designer of this kit did that likely to accommodate many different transformers and other parts that the user would want to put in. Unfortunately, I found that I had to drill more holes, and we'll get to those in a bit. But just the quality of the cabinet itself, I mean, you can see the reflection of me filming this just on the inside of it. And it is very dense. It is a welded steel construction. Sorry, let's get that on camera. Folded, welded steel construction. And it is a nice heavy-duty part. And as my customer is a professional player, it's going to see some knocks and bumps along the road. It's good to start off with very high-quality chassis. It's not going to break on us. Now, other parts. It came with a series of eyelet boards. I was expecting worse, to be honest. You get on the internet, and there's all sorts of comments made about Ted Weber kits. They're not good, they have bad parts, blah, blah, blah. Well, take that with a grain of salt. There's some very good things about the kit. There's some things that are not so great. But, I knew that going in. And I have to say that these eyelet cards, they're pretty nice, actually. They're the old school Fender boards, and they'll do the job just fine. Something else that the kit came with. Now, I didn't ask for a power transformer, but it came with one. This particular one is a made in China transformer. I'm probably going to send it back to them because I'm going to get one that was sourced here in Canada from Hammond Manufacturing, just as soon as I can confirm the dimensions of the cutout, but it's not CSA approved. In fact, it has no approval stamp on it whatsoever. So if you're worried about such things, that's important to note. Another thing is that it came with a choke. Again, I didn't order it with one, but it came with this choke. Now compare this choke with the equivalent from Hammond Manufacturing. Hammond one's a little bigger. It's the same footprint, but the most important thing is this choke, which has high voltage DC going through it, is an open frame with a coil exposed, and this will be on the bottom of the chassis. I don't like that. I like one with a nice enclosed housing, and this Hammond fits the bill perfectly. A few other things about the kit. Came with a big bag of parts. Some are good and some are bad. The power switches are Carling, which is fine. Other switches are Carling, which is fine too. One thing that I didn't like are the power inlet and outlet connectors. These are snap-in variety. I much prefer the screw-in type, but I'm sure I can make these function just fine. One thing that I did notice is the phone jacks on them. They're not, I guess they're fairly high quality, but they're certainly not a name brand. They're not Switchcraft or any other, or Nutric or anything like that. They seem okay, but I'm not going to use them. I've got a bunch of genuine Switchcraft parts I'm going to be using instead. Another thing about the kit, it came with a bunch of tube sockets. Now, I was expecting worse. These are typical Chinese quality ceramic ones. They're good quality parts. There's nothing going to be wrong with these at all. I chose not to use them though. I went ahead and got some Belden parts from my local supplier here, which is Next Generation Guitars. So we're going to be using the Belden ones, which are phenolic and very high quality. I didn't order the kit with capacitors. I decided to source my own. I'm using my favorite capacitors, Mallory 150s. So we have those. Let's have a nice set of upgraded electrolytic capacitors for the power supply. But the kits did come with resistors. These are high quality metal film resistors. So that's great. I've got no issue using these. Some people would prefer to use carbon comps. Not me. Carbon comps change over time. They get filled with moisture and they break and they do nasty things, and they don't sound that great, in my opinion, because of the additional noise. Maybe there's some kind of mojo about them that you may or may not like, but I don't. Metal film, it's going to be reliable. It's going to sound great again and again on stage, and for this particular application, I think that's important. The kit also came with a nice brass backplate. Bunch of knobs. They look high quality, and some cloth pullback wire. That's pretty nice. This is for the reverb tank. It also came with a reverb tank and a power cord. The reverb tank that came with the kit is a high quality Accutronics reverb tank. No concerns with this part whatsoever. However, for whatever reason, the kit does not come with a reverb tank bag. Instead, they have instructions about how you're supposed to mount the reverb tank on screws using some heavy-duty springs. So that's interesting. But I'm not going to do that because I know in a real performance situation, the back of these Fender amplifiers get loaded with all sorts of stuff. And I want this tank to be in a bag just like the original ones do, because I believe it's going to end up being more durable. Now let's talk about the chassis. The chassis itself is laser cut and it's festooned with holes. Many, many, many holes. As I said before, I believe this is so that the chassis can accommodate a variety of components installed by the user. What I find though is that with this particular setup, the parts that I chose, which are actually standard guaranteed to fit vintage Deluxe Reverb parts, they didn't fit. So I had to cut more holes. And I'll show you why. So this is the two holes for the output transformer. I had to cut this hole, which is a bit weird, but oh well, I had to do it. And even though this hole was there was no other corresponding hole for the other side. For the reverb transformer, this hole here was fine, but I had to make a slight adjustment with this one. I had to move it in just a little bit, just a little cinch. So again, that was a bit odd. but again, that's fine. The most disconcerting was this particular hole here is for the potentiometer for bias adjustment. It physically interferes with the other potentiometer on the front panel. You cannot install them both at the same time. So what I did is I moved that to over here, which is far away from any controls which may be sensitive to noise. So I had to do some modifications. Now, as I said before, it came with a power transformer that I plan to not use, but I need to verify that a stock Deluxe Reverb power transformer is actually going to fit in that hole, and that's what I'm going to do next. So here's the specification of a Hammond Deluxe Reverb reissue transformer. It's a good component. It's got a few nice features. 325 volts on the primary, 207 milliamperes, and the heater winding has a center tap, which is nice. Unfortunately, doesn't fit the hole. It is too large for the hole that's in the chassis. However, Hammond does make something that is an exact Deluxe Reverb transformer replacement. A little more voltage, which is interesting, but also a little less current at only 138 milliamps, so it's considerably weedier. Unfortunately, also, it doesn't have a center tap on the heater winding. But that's okay. I can easily deal with that with a couple of resistors. But more importantly, it fits the hole, which is the most important bit. If you're concerned about this lower milliamp rating, it is in line with what the stock Deluxe back in the day had in it, and I'm not terribly worried about it. One thing that I like to point out is the front and back plates that the kit comes with. You can see them, they're covered with this protective film, and they're quite nice. If you peel them back, they look pretty beautiful. They're really nicely printed. But what they are plastic. These things are plastic. Now, I've got concerns about using plastic, and that is durability. Once you plug things in and out of these channels for some time, it's going to get scratched up, and that may not look so great. So I have some concerns about that, but we're going to install them because the main reason is that this particular kit allows room for the bright switches, which a Deluxe Reverb never came with. You can see them on the chassis here as well. So because it's got cutouts for the bright switches already in the front plate, I can't actually swap it with a replacement one because I'd have to make these cutouts. And I don't want to go through that. So we're going to leave them, but it won't be the same as an original. It is right there, which is made out of metal. A tale of two transformers. So this is the power transformer that came with the kit. It is a unmarked Chinese transformer with no safety preambles on it or anything like that. And it seems fine until you compare it to its replacement, which is a Hammond manufacturing transformer specifically designed for a vintage Deluxe Reverb. It has the same spacings through all the screws, but as you can see, it has much higher winding. And the thing that I like the best about it is it's got CSA approval.